My name is Rose Amador-Lebeau. I am President and CEO of CTC. Our mission is to help people through employment and education become self-sufficient. We have a day worker center. We have educational programs so people can get their GEDs. We serve a variety of people, people who've just become unemployed, people who have never worked. We work with homeless people. We work with people who have just gotten out of prison and have to re-enter the workforce. So we're full service. I think it's seeing people make the change, become successful, make that transition, and actually having an impact on people's lives, a positive impact. To see these success stories is what it's all about.
Indigenous soul, 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 indigenous soul.
Hi, I'm Siwa Pili, Rose Amador-Lebeau.
And I'm Craig Pasqua, and you're watching Native Voice TV.
Yes, thank you for joining us today. We're going to learn about diabetes prevention, and with us we have Orena Flores. Welcome, Orena.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I have family members, friends, a lot of people I know that have diabetes and have really suffered from it. I've lost a really good friend who had diabetes really bad, and I think he died at 49. It's a serious problem. Tell us about it.
Oh, it's so serious. I'm sure all of us Indigenous people especially can name at least a few people in your family, your own family, that suffer from diabetes. In my own family, my mother has diabetes. My father, although he passed away at a young age, unrelated to diabetes, he was only 32 and he had diabetes. And you know, it seems kind of common on reservations where growing up, it's kind of expected. You think, that's just natural. That's just what happens. You eat a lot and you gain weight, and then all of a sudden you're hit with this sickness. And it's really common.
But it's not. It doesn't have to be that way.
Right, exactly. It doesn't have to be, and that's why, we're here with this program, hopefully to kind of nip it in the bud and to meet with families to prevent any further sickness, unnecessary sickness.
And what program is that?
This is the Pathways to American Indian and Alaska Native Wellness Diabetes Prevention Program. And it's a 16-week program, consists of a class for 1 hour. And it's really a study that's being financed or being funded by Stanford University and San Jose State University. And we're collecting the data in order to publish the data, our findings. Then we're going to send it out to all the reservations and all Indigenous communities to show them that this is what works. And so we divided the program into two groups. One is an enhanced group, which is it's really just to show more cultural involvement. We do things like any kind of ceremony. We're going to have a Bonnie Dooney retreat coming up for the participants. We do some Indigenous workouts, actually. I do that every Saturday, Indigenous workouts.
So what kind of Indigenous workout is it?
I think it's becoming very popular in Indian country to do the PAAW cardio stuff. So there's a lot of programs across, nationwide that do PAAW sweat. And it's really kind of the moves that you do at a powwow, whether you're a fancy dancer, jingle dress dancer, or a grass dancer, you're taking these moves and putting it into like a Zumba style workout. So everybody comes together, you're all kind of doing the same moves, and it's really fun because you're dancing to powwow music. And then also like the last thing we did was we had a Natives on the Move event, and we had the live drum. Manny Liares was our singer. And we got everybody involved, and we were just kind of showing them a couple moves, and it was really fun.
Oh, that sounds you're right. It's like Zumba. And I think that's more like salsa, but they made it into a program. So you better make your own program.
Right, exactly.
That's great. That's great because it's kind of a cultural exercise, huh?
Right, and it's a lot of fun, and even people that don't know how to do any kind of powwow moves or, kind of off rhythm, they enjoy it very much just by doing the little steps.
Okay, so help me understand. So the program, the Diabetes Prevention Program, long name, okay, and you've got two groups that are going concurrently, and one group, I assume they're going through classroom teaching, and maybe how to eat and how to live. And the other group is an enhanced group, and you're introducing cultural things, native or indigenous cultural things to them, and you're looking at how they respond. Both of these groups respond, and that's part of the study.
Right, exactly.
So that's why it's underwritten by universities.
So the group that doesn't get the enhanced thing, do they know that?
Yes, they do know that because at the beginning
I'd be
it's
mad.
it's ran. I know, right? That's what I was feeling. I didn't want to reveal too much to those people in the other class, but it's randomized in the beginning. So when they come in, they do a baseline, which is they get their blood test and they get weighed, and they make sure that they're okay and good to go for the classes. They know that they're randomized, so they can either be in the enhanced or in the standard. And they're aware of that. And they're both equally very good.
I'm just going to say either one will help
Same
you.
curriculum,
Right.
yes. And they all have fun in it. I know I hear from both classes. Another lady that helps me, her name is Christina. She's from San Jose State, and it's really helping her too. She's pretty young, fairly young, but she's able to grow a lot and get the experience, and she has fun teaching the classes as well. So it's a win-win, regardless of. The only difference is in the enhanced, like we mentioned, it's more culturally based, because that's part of the study to see what works. Does it work, or does it help you even more when you have culture introduced into it, or is it fine with just the standard version of it?
But either one helps.
Right.
Now, we were talking to one of our other guests about fry bread. So, what's your take on fry bread? Because, it seems to be a staple at all of the powwows, but there's a lot of powwows.
Exactly. There's a powwow every weekend. There's going to be 2 this weekend in Mills College and stuff. But, I love fry bread. I think it's delicious. But, realistically, fry bread does not come from Native people.
Right.
Culturally, ancestrally, it
Give
wasn't.
us the history of fry bread.
It wasn't
I know
about,
what it is, but
right.
I think,
Right. Coming from the reservation, I received commodity foods, and commodity foods from the government, the golden brick cheese. I love cheese to this day, but because of that, we had to figure out how to make food from that.
Right.
And a lot of it was bad. Greasy foods. We had to use the flour, the cheese, the beans, everything that came with it. I mean, beans are good for you, but that goes on a fry bread, and that's what we came up with. We came up with the flour and the water, baking soda, toss it in a pan, and here we go, diabetes. And everybody gained weight and got less active, and that's really what kind of hindered us too. When you eat the wrong foods, you get less active, and it bothers your emotions, it bothers you physically. And I have nothing against fried bread, but I believe that we should probably kind of cut back on that. I suggest at the powwows, since it's very common and it's pretty much sometimes the only food that you have to eat at the powwow, maybe cut back a little. Maybe get smaller portions, or even get a plate and then share it.
Share it.
I've seen the line at the Heritage Celebration that we put on, and it goes around the building.
Yeah, and
There's
people
hundreds of people waiting
Maybe
for
we should have them exercise while they're in line.
Yeah, right, do some stretches.
Because they'll be there a long time. But, I think, you talk about healthy foods, but I think, our own food, our native food was healthy.
Oh, yes.
And, this is not our native food. And, you were talking about commodities.
Right.
It's not our native food.
No, it's not. And they have this, most indigenous cultures, they know the main foods that were healthy for us were referred to as the 3 sisters, which was the squash, the beans, and the corn. And that was all we really needed to live and to get by, and living in our tribal land, and how we had to live. Like my people, we lived in mud houses, but who built those mud houses? Probably us, right? By our own people. We're more active then, and whatever we ate, diabetes was unheard of. We're like, what is that? How do you get that, and why would you get that? But going back to the program, this is what we try to promote, really. This way of life isn't of us. If you're proud to be who you are, you're proud of your heritage, let's look back at what made us so great, which was we were fit warriors. In my tribe, the Quetzal tribe, we were like 8 feet tall and super fit. We were big and we were strong, and a lot of tribes were like that. And nowadays, you kind of look, even speaking for myself, we need to get back to that.
That's
Okay.
great, and it's great that you're doing the prevention portion. It's obviously helpful if you already have diabetes to start controlling it.
Right.
But the prevention's so important.
Yeah. So how does one get involved in the program?
So we have a Facebook page, at least. It's called PAAW for Healing. If you can go onto that Facebook page, there's phone numbers that you can call. Her name is Jan. Get in touch with her, and she'll tell you a little bit more about the program. But overall, there are some limitations to being a part of the program, mainly because, once again, this is part of a study, and we're looking at a specific group, which are the indigenous group, people of the Americas, and you have to be over 21. You can't have diabetes already. It's fine if you're borderline, because again, we're trying to prevent. And that's pretty much it. But through the baselines, you'll have to go through some tests, because we want to make sure you're okay enough. Sometimes people have other ailments where us trying to tell them to eat a different way wouldn't be such a good idea. So we do a lot of tests to ensure that you're safe, and that your road to living a healthy lifestyle will be good.
You're watching Native Voice TV, and we're talking with Arena Flores about diabetes prevention, the effect it has on Native Americans, and things we could do through the program she's working with. And that is, I like the name PAAW, but it's PAAW.
Right.
So let's tell our audience again how they would qualify for the program.
You can qualify for the program if you're anywhere from the Americas and you're indigenous. So that includes South America, North America, and part of Alaska, Hawaii. As long as you're indigenous to this land, that's who we welcome. And that's what the study is going to be on, for the indigenous people and what works.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. And we were talking about some of the things, a lot of activities, a lot of fun things. So that we can go to the website, get your information, and sign up. So let's learn a little bit about Arena. Where are you from? Tell us about your heritage and your people.
Yes. So my maiden name is Arena Monahan, and I got married a couple of years ago to a wonderful man who is also a Southern traditional dancer. He is Yaqui and Apache. But I'm from Winter Haven, California, and that's near Yuma, Arizona. A lot of people know that movie 3:10 to Yuma. I have friends that joke about that. But it's a small reservation, probably consisting of 7,000 to 10,000 members. And I was actually born here in San Jose, but when I was 2 years old, my mom and my dad decided to move us back to the reservation, and that's where I grew up for most of my adolescent years. And
What was that experience like?
Oh, I didn't know any other world besides living on a reservation. I went to a res school, I had res friends and res dogs, and my family lived close to each other, and I didn't know that there was any other life outside of the reservation. And then as I got older, I got involved in a lot of the traditional dances, the traditional ceremonies and things that we'd have on the reservation, just being a part of the community. And then my dad had passed away while we were still on a reservation, and so my mom decided to move us back up here because she grew up here in her teenage years, and she worked out here, went to school out here.
Was she out here on relocation?
Yes, actually, my grandparents, I think it was in the 50s, they were relocated out here in San Jose, and but they couldn't make it up here either, because as you know, they gave you a little bit of money for that to come out here, and it just didn't work out. They didn't make it, so they had to move back to the reservation. So it was a lot of back and forth. But my mom was pretty familiar with San Jose, so that's where she brought us as we got older. Because I have 2 other sisters, so we're all together.
So did you go to school here at all in San Jose?
I did, and I wasn't a very good student because I went to different high schools, but all over the Bay Area, because I just wasn't used to it, being on the reservation, and it was so strange to me coming to school up here, and there's all these mixed people, and I mean, don't get me wrong, on the reservation there's mixed people as well. We have the whites, and we're so close to the border, we have Mexicans, we have blacks, but up here it was a different vibe. It was almost as if nobody had a culture. And that was strange to me, and I wasn't very used to it, so I didn't get along with people in school.
Well, that's what I was curious about, how the difference or the comparison of, going to school on the reservation and then going to an urban school. How did that affect you?
Yeah, on the reservation, you had more of an identity because you were among your people, and you knew your house was just down the street. You knew the ceremonies that went on, you knew your culture. But up here, it's almost like it doesn't matter sometimes. Like it doesn't matter what your culture is. And that was back then, in the 90s or early 2000s. Now, I see a lot more young people trying to indulge or trying to find out more about their culture, which is a good thing. And I think that's because we've kind of learned. Where it was taken away. The culture was taken away, so now especially my generation, we're trying to bring back the languages, we're trying to bring back the dances, we're trying to bring back just the community involvement, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's part of a plan,
right?
To get you to forget your past and the heritage you've grown up with or didn't have, and then marginalize it, and sooner or later you'll forget it.
You're right.
But that is tough, because I grew up in my tribal homeland of Oklahoma, and then coming out here to California, it was cultural shock, and it took a while to get adjusted. And I can see why so many natives and tribal people come in to an urban area and go back.
Right.
And it's really no fault of their own. It's just the government or whomever wants to push people into the society, and they probably thought they were doing them some good. Putting them,
or maybe not,
or not. Or that's, yeah.
I think the whole goal was assimilation,
assimilation.
and be like us.
And then that's kind of what happened with the food. You talked about the foodstuffs, the commodity food. I mean, it's like cheese. That was, that's certainly not something we ate, in Oklahoma.
But it's delicious.
Yeah, it is, and it gets you hooked. And then the flour and stuff. That's not natural. Remember,
right.
We're only about 100 years, for some of us, from being hunter-gatherers. And you talked about the healthy foods. There's also, we used to hunt. My dad and I used to go deer hunting.
Yeah.
Fishing.
And now we're so far from that. I wanted to share, I had met, actually my husband and I had met this man, I think, actually for the life of me, I can't remember where he was from. But it was from South America. And he came up here and he was talking about how strange it was that he couldn't hunt. And he was trying to, and his friends that he met were telling him, no, you can't shoot deer, you need a permit for that. And he said, what's a permit? What's that? Why do I need that? This is food for my family, why can't I do that? And that's something that's totally gone from our people, at least in the urban communities. I know there's a lot of tribes up north that still hunt, and it's great, a wonderful thing to teach your children, to get involved culturally, and to remember that, to keep that memory alive.
Yeah, when you look at, now they have all the health food stores that people have to pay extra money at the health food store to eat what we were eating before, right?
Having said that, I was actually thinking, I thought it was a little strange coming up to the Bay Area. People in the Bay Area in California are known for being health nuts. But I was wondering, why isn't the indigenous community like that? At least some of us are, some of us are, and a lot of us aren't though.
Right.
So I was, understanding that this program is kind of a way of introducing, this urban life, this, society that we live in today to something familiar. So if we're not used to reservation life or cultural life, living out here in the city, how are we going to implement that? How are we going to implement something that we're familiar with as indigenous people? And Silicon Valley is known for, it has eBay and all that, and Google, and we're known for that technology. So let's use that. We're going to use that and put it as part of our program, which it is. We have digital storytellings, which is the participants in the program can talk about themselves, show pictures, and really it kind of triggers memories of where they're from, memories of who they are, and that's kind of a thing that we want to, to implement as well.
Now, do you have the stories on your website, or is there a way people can see the digital stories?
They're not accessible to the public, only because sometimes the people that make them, they like, oh, I don't want anybody to see it. But we'll share it among our participants in the class. We're trying to get a few of them that are willing to share in the public, which would be great. It would be great to share with anyone.
Oh, that's great. And like your parents went back on relocation, and the ones who stayed here, their children, a lot of them did not have the exposure to their culture, or their tribe, tribal ways or anything, because they were taken. Well, the whole thing was, called assimilation, culturation, and of course it worked to a certain extent. And it's so important that like your program is helping bring that back as part of the program.
Absolutely. And it's not just our program. Our board actually has been around for a few years, but that's also just adding to the many programs, Native American programs that are out here in the Bay Area that are doing a great job of trying to provide a place. And that's really what we want to do, because San Jose, we have the American Indian Alliance, we have the Indian Health Center, but sometimes there needs to be more. Sometimes there needs to be more provided. So what we have is a facility that has a gym, a swimming pool, we have a weight room, we do aerobics, so to speak, like the PAAW aerobics stuff. And it's great to have that available for people that are looking to, because I hear a lot of Native people saying, oh, I went to the Zumba class, or I went to this class, and we're like, why don't you come to our class, which is a PAAW? You'll be among your own, and it'll be great, it'll be fun. So that's just kind of what we're trying to provide for the Native community, is a place where they can go play basketball or anything that they need to learn tennis. Craig has taught some tennis classes, or just for fun, at the Timpani Center before, but we need a place and we need a facility for the community.
Yeah, that's what Craig's been saying.
That's saying that for a long time. Yeah, we do need that. And hopefully with a lot of people like Lorena getting involved, and we had another gentleman, Vernon, Medicine Cloud was on, and he's talking about the same thing. Get these young people energized into seeing, that desire, that vision, that we want to see, because it's important to future generations, and it's important to our elders, to respect them, and it's just something that needs to be done. It's time. So,
right, it's time.
So you also do some dancing.
Yeah, I do dancing myself. I've been dancing since Fancy Shawl. I started when I was 8 years old, and it wasn't a fluke, but it wasn't something I was very interested in. And then my great aunt actually had said, oh, I want you to dance with my niece, so I'm going to make you this outfit. And I just said, okay. So she made me an outfit, and I went out there, and then I was like, oh, I was hooked. I loved it. I'd dance everywhere. I'd travel everywhere. We'd even come up here for the Stanford powwow from all the way down there. It's like a 10-hour drive. We'd come up here, and I just had fun. And then I started dancing jingle, and I've been doing that ever since. We do a lot of traveling as well. My husband and I, we dance for a Native ministry. And we're actually going to be going to Mexico this year, Nogales, Mexico. And we're bringing some of the dancers from the Bay Area as well. And we're going to go down to a festival over there. So we do a lot of that. I've been dancing for a long time.
Wow, what kind of festival is that?
It's supposed to be like an indigenous gathering of the different Native tribes that are down there in Mexico. So we're going to meet with probably about 4 other tribes, and they're going to do their dances, and we're just going to do powwow dancing. So powwow dancing isn't primarily my culture. We have the bird dancing, very beautiful presentation of that. Very beautiful story too. But I do the jingle dancing, which is from the Ojibwe tribe. A lot of the times when you're doing that, it's better to get permission before you start doing something like that, because it's not my tribe and it's not. But if somebody asks you to, like somebody had asked me to from the Ojibwe, she's actually from the Red Lake Nation. That's where I got my start in the jingle dress dancing, because you have to represent the tribe and you represent a culture and you represent a story, which is the healing.
And what is your dance again? Tell me about that.
The jingle dress?
No, your tribal
The
dance.
bird dancing, yes. Well, we have these gourds that come from the ground. It's like from the squash. And they make these gourds out of them. So it's kind of a rattle like, except they're big. But they sing, the men sing of stories of how the land used to be. They sing of our traditions. Like, one of the stories is that where we're at, even though we're in the desert and it's totally dry and there's sand everywhere, we tell the story of at one point that whole area was underwater, and we used to sing of the whales that would come through the rivers there, or the ocean was there at one time. And that's primarily what the songs will talk about, history. So it's a very beautiful, slow-moving dance for the women. And then sometimes we, like in all traditions, we challenge the men. So we have that portion in our dances as well, where we challenge the men. And it's really physical. Like you have to be pretty fit, kind of like the Mexica dancers that have those awesome thighs and calves. It's something like that as well. But it's a beautiful sight to see, and hopefully we can bring a group up here to demonstrate that.
Wow, that would be interesting to see.
Same at the Heritage Celebration.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe something.
So do your sisters dance too?
Yes, my older sister dances usually, and I say she dances because I dance too, but I think she's more into that than I do, because I choose to kind of represent the jingle dress. But she dresses in the traditional dress, and she'll go to the gatherings down south. They have a lot of gatherings, bird dance gatherings, and she participates in that.
Wow, you guys are really active, and it's wonderful to hear. Thank you both for being here. Thanks for helping me out, Craig.
Thank you, Rose.
We do
Pleasure.
every week. And thanks, Serena. We really appreciate you being here and
It's a pleasure.
educating us with all this information on the diabetes program. Thanks
Absolutely.
for joining us. Like us on Facebook, and we'll see you next week.
Indigenous soul, indigenous soul, indigenous soul.